Sorry, we're closed.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Another episode of Sorry We Are Closed. Our most electric entrance of all time. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. And today's topic is an interesting
Pat McAfee,
one.
I'm standing.
There you go. You need to open it up. There you go. Yeah. Get in there, Pat McAfee.
For the brand.
Today's topic. We have finally, by the way, congratulate my co-host. We have finally closed on our two new restaurants. Sean's been one of them. I have both of them. Congratulations to us both.
So far, 30 seconds in, I love standing.
There you go. Well, we have closed on these two restaurants. We will make it official probably this evening when I announce it publicly, but this doesn't come out till tomorrow or till Friday. So you'll already know about this by then. But we have done that. And in the theme of it, as I try to grow my empire of restaurants, in the theme of it, I just got a nice little tippy tip about an acquisition of possibly 300 restaurants, which would be insane, and I would need some serious financial backing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But funny enough, have you heard of the franchise, Sean, Del Taco?
Yeah.
So Jack in the Box owns Del Taco. Let me bring up this article for us.
My mic is just not long enough for standing.
Huh?
My mic is just not long enough for standing.
Yeah, you need it higher. But Jack in the Box apparently is making good on a promise that it would sell off company-operated Del Taco restaurants. The company on Wednesday announced a partnership with an investment banking firm, Cypress Group, to sell the restaurants to franchisees. About half of Del Taco's 600 locations are company-run. The San Diego-based Jack in the Box acquired Del Taco earlier this year and promised to convert the Mexican fast food chain into an asset-light model similar to its namesake burger chain. Franchisees operate more than 90% of Jack in the Box at 2,200 locations. So, anyway, as I try to grow and buy more places, this is something that would interest me. I actually hired a firm, not a firm, but like there's a broker to look for things of this nature, to go buy huge amounts of restaurants all in one fell swoop. Obviously, you need financial backing to do so. But some of you at home might be like, well, Pat doesn't have $100 million to buy 300 Del Tacos. And I'm going to tell you how you're going to do that in a very brief 15-second way. You borrow money from others. That was significantly less than 15 seconds. That's how efficient I am. That's how efficient I am. How efficient the world looks at me. But anyway, so you're trying to grow, trying to do all that stuff, and these are the ways you do it. Even in the small amount of restaurants that I've owned, I never, minus one, I've never bought them in full. It's just not a feasible game plan in order to grow at a massive rate. I just don't have that kind of capital. So you just got to go borrow from other people, and sure enough, make things work. In our case, we borrow a lot from the people that's selling the businesses themselves. We do seller financing. And this, my friend, is a little bit different from what Sean does. So I'm curious, Sean, the correlation between things that you do, and we always talk about the mind, and I don't really have necessarily a specific question, so I'm really hoping that you have something to say here. But
about 90 seconds ago, I was like, I think Patrick is just hitting the point where he realized that there's not much to say on this topic.
Yeah, I don't have a lot, but
I do have I do have some interesting things that are on my mind. If we don't
just go.
Okay.
Just go.
Well, I think that in general, like you're different. The difference in like what you do as a business, like is like dramatically different than what I do. Like my big thing is like how does an individual generate wealth? That's my thing, and there's a variety of different ways to do it. And I think we can get into that. But if I'll jump off if I'll piggyback off your topic here, the thing for me is. Like it is so simple. You're like you just you like borrow money from other people, but it's so absurd for a lot of people to ask that question of somebody. And it's like first of all, it's like okay, like who do I know? It's like I know my buddies. They don't have that kind of money. My mom, my dad, they have, they're better off than I am, or like people like they don't know how to go through that process and. Yeah, I'm actually curious, man. You talk about it. I don't really know. Like one of the things that I was thinking about today, right before I got on this podcast, I'm like, every single day, like I pound out these systems, man. Like I'm like a marketing machine. Like this past month, October was the first month ever in the history of my business where we've been actually profitable in the lead acquisition process, which means that if we spend $100 to advertise, we made back 101. So it costing us nothing over the last 30 days, first month ever, where it's profitable. And that's crazy, right? But that's the stuff that I do. So like my thing is like, how does one individual like maximize their wealth generating performance? That's what I do. And there's like, mainly it's just like making a super efficient marketing system or super efficient performance system. What I'm curious, I'm like, so before the podcast, I'm like, what do I need to get better at? Like, I'm really good at this stuff. What do I need to get better at? And one of the big things is like, you just got to you got to be more aggressive in networking. You got to be more aggressive in like finding the right people to link to. And even as we sit here and speak, I don't know how you did that. Like, I know that you're a much more personable, sociable guy than I am. Like, even when I stopped kind of like going out, like you pushed on, and you were like you met all sorts of different people. I know that like, you're meeting a lot of people when you're out and having a good time, and you and I had huge differences and stuff like that. Like, how did you end up navigating that? Because I think that people understand like, okay, I have to borrow money from others, but how do I close the gap from where I am now to where I want to be? How does that happen?
Sean, that's a great question, but let me do something first where I ignore our good friend Brian O'Connor's phone call.
Very necessary for productivity.
Yes, but I always say me. I make a joke out of everything. I always say the way I was able to network my ass off is by essentially through a drinking habit. People say how I got into the restaurant game. I tell them I did it by just drinking my way there. And the reason I say that was because when I first started playing baseball, I'll never forget this. I went out on a Sunday fun day because I used to watch football with my brother every Sunday. And then Sean had probably a PRI course, if I had to guess, that he went and took somewhere. And my sister had been asking me to go to Sunday fun days all the time. And so I gave it a go. It was a good weekend to go. My brother was going to be there. I didn't want to just sit there and watch football by myself. So I gave it a go. And I loved it. And my sister didn't want to go out as much as I did. And so, but I kept going every Sunday, and I'd go by myself. I eventually made friends enough where I was able to show up and know enough people where I could just, drink with people and do things. And, I'm sure I annoyed some people at the time. And most of the people that I talked to then, who I drank with, I certainly don't drink with anymore. Yeah. That was just kind of an introductory into it. But, the thing that it's tough to get out there and do that type of stuff. I had one big advantage. And I think this is the advantage I think I would give everyone in the networking game. Other than, blessed with a personality. Like, a personality, there is, like, even if you're nice, you can still come off really fucking annoying. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, I don't come off annoying, at least seemingly. It doesn't seem like I come off annoying to people. So I have that. I don't know how I pulled that off, but I have that. But the number one thing that I would tell people when networking is try to give people a reason why they want to know you. And then networking is not fucking hard because people try to network with you. And I was very blessed and fortunate that, word started getting around that I played for the Red Sox. And now, like, even if I showed up by myself, everyone wanted to drink with me because I played for the fucking Red Sox. It was like a reason.
So I think that's the challenge, and that's where I think the immediate disconnect with the audience comes. Because now everyone's going to roll their eyes and be like, oh, that's how it worked. And I get that. And you and I have had the conversation where it's like, imagine we were, one of our other friends who's starting a business, not a former Lakers strength coach, not a former Red Sox baseball player. How does somebody who's just a regular guy with it's brutal to say, but like with nothing really outstanding about you, who has just made a decision, they're going to say, I want to do what Pat's doing. I want to start investing in businesses and growing in that capacity. What's don't be annoying is a good part. I do think, I think it's super helpful that he works for the Red Sox or played for the Red Sox. Major difference there. But I think that that's helpful. But let's not overlook the fact that you actually did go to Sunday Fun Day several times, just rolling up by yourself. That's crazy, right? That is, I did that a couple times out in LA. And I remember one time I went out there, I was like, I'm just going to go out for 30 minutes. And if this is brutal and I can't figure, I don't want to do this, I'm out. And it's really, there's no vibe, there's no energy. You just put on some jeans and you're walking to the bar now. And so, let's not overlook that fact. And I think that that's a great start. And I remember, some of the people that you'd meet and, you'd introduce me to on, the Saturday when I'd go out and be like, these guys are tools. And, it just slowly, improved. I guess, you gravitated and found the right people. So, I would say, number one, question for you would be how would you recommend a normal person do that? But second of all, let's I think a normal person can do that. Go and start mingling and understand that it's always going to be sucky at first, but things just start if you're consistent with it, things start to work and you gravitate towards the right people. So
I will, like I said, I'm very pro. Things don't just start to work. You have to be a network. You have to be a guy. You have to be someone that's no matter how hard, no matter how many mic hand drills you do out on the basketball court, you'd probably still never go into the NBA. So things don't just eventually work. And I understand, the person who, at home might be like, he's a Red Sox player. That's how it all worked out. That's fine. You'll probably never get there with that. If that's the mindset you have, you'll probably never get there. Because if you actually read and actually, actually not read, if you actually listen to what I said and took it in, what I told people and what I'm telling you guys back at home is you need to find your Red Sox. You need to be able to provide value to people. For whatever reason, that for me, that was the beginning. But I was just providing value to drinking buddies. And, eventually, I don't even know how I fucking got there, but eventually I got to where I got to. But you have to have a reason why people. I actually just talked about on TikTok. I had a meeting, and I actually might have mentioned on this podcast previously, but I had a meeting with, I was trying to set up a meeting with the CEO of Wheels Up and a very high up figure in the Tao group, the Tao Hospitality group. So if you party, all these clubs that Tao has across the world, actually. And I never pushed for either of those meetings. And I'm a networker, Sean. I push for things. I want these things. I never pushed for either of those meetings because I didn't know what I could provide to them. And I didn't want to just go sit to dinner and not know what the hell I'm going to give these people. Why the hell are they there other than to do some charity work for their buddy to sit with this other guy? And obviously things could come out of nowhere, so something could happen. But that wasn't a meeting I'm willing to take because I wasn't prepared for the meeting. There was no reason for that guy to be there. And maybe I would have come up with that at the dinner, but I wasn't willing, especially too high up people like that, I wasn't willing to possibly risk, the relationship because that first meeting, if something doesn't come of it, if they don't be like, oh, wait a minute, we could use that. Next time we ask for a meeting, it's like, well, why the fuck am I doing this again? You might get one out of them. You probably won't get two if they don't see a reason to go. So it's important to have something in your arsenal. And for whatever that might be, We have this one guy from back in high school, and I don't know how he got my number, but he recently just got my number too. I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast. But he's in the financial services insurance game, wealth management, and he just berates you with texts and emails and calls. Like, it is, you have to respect his tenacity, but it is never ending. Not the way to do it. Not the way to do it. You might get some success. People might just, some nice people might just give in, but not the way to actually accumulate. You might make an okay living, but you not to actually accumulate wealth. You have to be able to give something to someone that they truly, truly value. And in this game right now, for example, when I'm doing these restaurants, one, personality has played a great role because I come off trusting as well. And every person I've bought restaurants from has asked to stay on with me. They want to work. They were selling, and now they were like, well, we prefer to partner with you. So everyone has wanted to stay on with me. That shows the personality, shows the trust that people see in me. But on top of that, I'm now saying, hey, listen, I don't want to give you $2 million for your restaurant. I believe that's the valuation, but I don't want to give it to you up front. How about this instead? You're in your 50s. You're still staring down the barrel of another 15 years until you can get what's that thing you get with that mom and dad are? I can't say they don't get it because they're in their 30s, but
like Medicare
65.
or something.
No, not maybe it's I guess it's Medicare because they don't have to pay for health insurance anymore. But you have a little bit. You're spending time. People get nervous, especially that generation. That was the generation of you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, you move on. None of them were doing Instagram posts showing off the bum. So that was that generation. So I was like, hey, listen, I'll bridge the gap for you. How about you give me a 10-year note on the business, and instead of $2 million, although that'll be the valuation with interest, I'll give you 5% interest, which is absolutely the best thing you could possibly get in the market right now. 5% interest, and at the end of it, you'll come away with like 2.75. You're going to get an extra $750,000 out of me. You're coming away like you wouldn't believe. And now they're like, okay, because they value money. Now I've given them something of value to be, and not on top of that, giving them security over the next 10 years. That as long as I don't drive their business into the ground, they're locked in for an even bigger amount of money than they originally anticipated. And it's a monthly installment every single month, first of the month. For the next 10 years, they win, plus a down payment that makes their bank account look nice. That is what I do for these restaurants. Now, when you're talking about bigger ones, like let's say we go buy Del Taco, if I buy 300 Del Tacos, that now we're talking private equity, and private equity is going to have to come involved, and whether we take debt on the business or if they take ownership in the business or what have you, that's a much, much more complicated deal. But from a simple standpoint, just to simplify it for you, it's still pretty much the same. Del Taco is just going to front the money for me, and then I owe them, whether it's in debt or whether it's converted debt into equity, whatever the case may be. That is, in the crux of it, what you do. But I don't believe, just like I tell you with Gary Vaynerchuk saying that everyone should start their own card company, I don't believe everyone is made for this life. I don't believe you can just go to Sunday Fun Days at Green Rock and start meeting people and really take that. I think, in the business that I've been in, there are my kind of people who are the face of places, the people that go out, they make their networks, they do these things. And then there's behind-the-scenes people that are great, really good at the things that I can't do. I'm not an organizational guy. I buy this freaking folder thing that you see on YouTube if you're watching. I mean, it looks organized. It is a little bit better organized than I usually am, but that's not me. I don't do the details. I've never done the details, and you can attest to that. I've never been a details guy. I've always been a big picture guy. So you need both, and you just have to figure out what you are, and then go excel at that. And then those people, you'll find money. The money will come to you if you're good at what you do, whether you're front of the house or the back of the house, as they say in the restaurant game. You just gotta, don't try to be something you're not.
Well, it reminds me of a story that I heard from Russell Brunson, actually. If you don't know, Russell Brunson is the co-founder of a company called ClickFunnels. If you're not in the entrepreneur space, you probably haven't heard of it, but he's got millions of followers across platforms. So I think he's only like at one something on Instagram, but he's all over. Really sharp dude. And he tells a story of how like he gets like 1,000 requests every day. Like, hey, would you be on my podcast? It'd be great if I could interview you for my book or something like that. And when he's telling the story, he's like, look, like it's a nice thank you. I'm honored to have been asked to be on your podcast. But this is a straight get. Like, you're just trying to get something from me. You get my time, you get my brand, you get my personality, you get who I am. And now I'm on your podcast, and now you can advertise like Russell Brunson was on my podcast. And he said somebody sent him a letter in the mail that said, like it was like a letter or like a big envelope or something like that, and it said like I'd love to have you on my podcast. It's only going to take 15 minutes. I have like these 5 questions that I want to ask you, and if you come on my podcast, what I want to do is I want to buy 100 of your books and I want to give them away to our listeners. And then I wanted to this charity. It's something. It's this like crazy charity that he's like really involved in. He's like, I want to give back. I want to me, my family, and I'm gonna donate like X number of dollars to this charity for that. And there's a couple other things that were like part of that. And Russell was like, you know what, I'll do that, right? Because all of those things kind of meant meant a lot to him. And like the moral of the story that he was telling was like, it was like an irresistible offer. It was an offer so good that he couldn't say no. And I've actually noticed that as well. And one of the things that we teach is that anytime you need somebody to do something, unless you're the top dog, you have to wrap it up in an irresistible offer in some way, shape, or form. And I do think that, like, I remember when I worked for the Lakers, like I would get people to, people just like send me an email like, hey, do you guys have an opening? Like, can you put in a good word for me? Like, bro, I don't even know you. And like, I mean, it was just like rampant stuff like that. And like, I would always say, like, if the job comes open on monster.com, indeed.com, like that's when everybody starts networking. And that's just get. And you've got to find a way to give. That's a Gary V's book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. It's talking about give, then get, then try to, make the ask and get. And I agree, man. I'm glad you said that, because I do think that what probably people are missing is like there's no real platform for them to stand on. Like I don't have the value, and I think that you've got to find the thing that is going to be your platform to stand. It's going to be the thing that you've increased your value. Like learn a skill, become the best in the world at a skill, or just become really good at a skill that people need, and then find a way to use that to leverage that for interviews, for contacts and things like that. I always find it interesting, like when like a celebrity or somebody that like fall off, and I think, I'm gonna guess you don't know this, but there was like a guy before like Letterman, before I know Arsenio Hall. He used to have. Do you know who that is?
Sounds familiar, but Arsenio Hall is such a crazy name that if someone said it once to me, I might remember it.
So he was. I might have this wrong, but he used to have like a talk like I know he had a talk show like similar to like Letterman and Leno and on those guys, Jimmy Fallon. And apparently when this is what it was. He went on. That's actually a good story. This is a great story for this. He went on The Apprentice with Donald Trump. And on that show, like the Donald walks in and he gives everybody a challenge. The challenge was like, you have to, raise $200,000 or something by 4:00 today or something like that. And so everybody like hits the streets. They're going out. They're trying to raise the money. They're calling their contacts and stuff like that. And one guy comes in. He's like, I got $200,000. This celebrity is my friend. We did this. And they went down the line. They did that. And they get to Arsenio Hall, and they're like, how much have you raised? I don't know the number that he raised, if it was a lot or I don't know if it was like a little bit or nothing at all. But he didn't even come close to the number. And they asked him, like, well, I think he got like booted from the show after that. And they're like, well, why, what happened here? And he said, man, when I had a show, everybody picked up answered my calls. And now nobody answers my calls. And it lends back to that. Like, he had something of value, like a platform for people to want to be associated with him with. And as soon as his value dipped out, there was nothing for him to offer anymore. And nobody wanted to deal with him anymore.
It is so, when we talk about networking and trying to be somebody, like, and we say like provide value to people, like it's true. Like no one gives no one in reality besides your family actually really gives a shit about you. Everyone wants you to be successful, but they're all going to put themselves before you. Whereas a family member might actually take themselves to zero to help you. Not many friends, probably zero of them, unless you're in life or death, will actually take themselves to zero for you. They're all your friends. They might like you, but they're all the way you became friends with them is probably other than middle school, but even middle school, probably the same shit. And probably, they might have been a loser in class, but you started talking to them. That's value. Boom, you're friends now. Like it goes down, and this is just the human race, is you're trying to advance in your life, and you need these types of value in order to make really anything of it. And, I've been asked to dinner, and, if you look in the Hoboken restaurant grand scheme of things, Jesus, if you look in the Hoboken restaurant grand scheme of things, I would say that if I'm not the top dog, I'm close, right? I'm top two, that's just, I own the most in town. So I'm probably the number one. Let's say I'm the top dog in town. I get asked to dinner by staff members, specifically, a good amount of times. People want to go out. They want to grab a drink with me. They want to sit down. More times than not, they are not asking me to dinner because they're my friend. Some of them I've known for years. And I've drank with them, and I've had fun with them at certain the bars that I own. But they're not asking, Pat, oh, let's go grab a drink, man. Let's go, let's catch up, right? No. I know why you're asking me to dinner, and I know the ask is coming eventually in that dinner, right? It's probably not in the first drink, probably going to get through the appetizers. But somewhere in that main course, maybe we get to the dessert if you're getting a little nervous. Somewhere in that main course of dessert, you're going to ask me for something. You're going to ask me, hey, do you think there's any spot, there's any space, in the next endeavor? Listen, I'd like to be a manager. I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. No one there is coming to me and say, hey, listen, man, I got this for you. This is why you should consider me. I can do this, this, and this. I know I've been in the game for a while. I know what Green Rock's capable of. And right now, you guys are profiting, $1.5 million. I know for a fact, and this reason, that I can make you 1.8. And now I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute now. You're telling me you can get me an extra $200,000 a year. That's nothing to sneeze at. You're not telling me you can make me an extra $1,000. Now there's a reason why I might think about you as a manager. You think that you're able to trim fat off my bone. I might be able to use you now rather than, I've seen you bartend. You seem like a good bartender. Yeah, I have no idea how you're going to be able to manage people. But, okay. Maybe your personality works. I don't know. But you're just leaving me to figure it out myself, which I'm fine doing. That's why I do what I do. But I've turned down 99% of those dinners because, frankly, I don't want to fucking go. Okay, now I'm going to go. You're an employee of mine, so I'm going to feel obligated to pay for you. So now on a Tuesday, I'm going to go buy a $400 dinner because we're always going to Dino's or something, like a nice dinner. So now I'm going to feel obligated to pay for you, even if you're the one who invited me and you probably should pay, and now I feel obligated to pay. And what am I gaining out of this other than the fact that I have to be a little uncomfortably honest with you about why I'm not sure you're the right person for this particular thing you're asking for? Why I don't have spots for you in my next investment group? You haven't given me anything. You haven't talked to me about what it is you can do for me. And coincidentally, similar like that. So a staff member looks up to me. I'm the top dog here. I look to the Tau group as many levels ahead of me. I have to give him fucking something. He's not going to just bring me on because he likes me. Maybe eventually, but that takes years of liking someone and knowing this person knows what the fuck they're doing in order to do that, especially at that level. So I think people get hung up with, and we go back to the beginning of this conversation, Sean. People get hung up. Well, he was a Red Sox player. He signed for $1 million.
Yeah.
Then he played a year in the big leagues. He made another $500,000. Yeah, of course. If I made $1.5 million by 25, I'd buy Green Rock. Of course I would. I think that's easy to just say I would do those things. First off, not accurate. Uncle Sam is a motherfucker if you don't know already. So I certainly didn't come away with that kind of money. But regardless of that, I am where I am today, not because of the money I made in baseball, but it was solely to do with people liked me. And I was laid back enough. This is how I got my first start in my restaurants. I was laid back enough where I didn't push. I said to a guy by the name of Danny, who's got me in my first sushi restaurant. For those Carrabba's Pod fans, back in Big Sam's Sushi. For those of you who are not Carrabba's Pod fans, it's called Saku. But he got me in there, and this is my firm belief, is that he knew I had some money, and I had told him once or twice in the 4 years that I knew him, if he ever needed an investor, I'd be happy to be a part of it. And there he had an investor that came along who had some money, who was probably going to leave him the fuck alone and not bother him. I had trusted him, and I didn't bother him. The only thing I asked of Danny was that he let me come on in the first couple months just to kind of learn the game, see if it was something that I was interested in, because I knew my baseball career was coming to an abrupt halt, and I needed something. And I got my start. I learned the restaurant. I learned I had no interest in being in the actual restaurant game, that I wanted to be in the bar game. I went over to Green Rock, went over into McSwilbo's, now over at Texas, Arizona, and 80 River, and I got 2 more on the docket, possibly Del Taco. But that's how it happened. The value I gave Danny could get money. Money is not what got me into that. It was the fact that he thought that I was an investor to leave him the fuck alone because he knew what he was doing and I didn't know, and he didn't have a guy that asked him every single weekend at Green Rock while we're drinking at Sunday Fun Day to let him give him money so that when he went and started a new restaurant. That does not work. That is not why I got my start. I did not get my start because I played for the Red Sox. I did not get my start for any of that. I got my start because of the personality that I had, and people liked me and thought that it wasn't going to be a fucking issue to have me around, and it wasn't. I let him be. And, I don't agree with everything. Even now, 3 years into owning, it might be 4 years now. Be 4 years this November. Wow, happy 4-year anniversary. We opened Saku in November of 18. But 4 years into owning restaurants, I don't agree with probably everything. If I walked, I don't pay attention much to Saku, but if I went over to Saku, I'm sure there'd be things that I would do differently. But am I calling Danny all the time? Hey, what the fuck's going on with this, Danny? What's this? Why are we doing this way? No. I never call him about Saku. Every time, he'll call me sometimes, be like, oh, hey, how do we do this month? And that's the end of it. And if he said we did it shitty, I'm like, that sucks. All right. And we move on. In that, I think, again, it's easy to make excuses as to why you aren't the guy. But at the end of the day, just like I said, no one gives a fuck. And, you can cry all you want on TikTok. I put up a video today. We can talk about this a little bit, Sean. I'm actually curious. Yeah, I know. Mom's going to love this podcast.
It is true, but
You and I are so different.
Let's hear your counter.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Like that is true. Nobody cares at all. And I don't really have a counter. Like there's no arguing your position. What I think the big challenge is I think what people will still say is they'll say, okay, like I see that, but you still had the money. And again, like nothing that you've said has been incorrect. Like, okay, like in order to acquire the money, like that's what people would say. Like, well, how do I get the money? I can be a nice guy. I can stay out of the way. It's like, okay, well now it's the problem of like how do you acquire the money? And the rhetoric continues. It is like you have to be able to provide incredible value. And I think that one of the things that I have learned really more so in like my attempt to become an NBA basketball player is that people all the time say like these bozos, they get paid so much money. Yeah, they are like insanely talented. Like they provide like they're like maybe they didn't work that hard to get there. Maybe they were truly blessed, which I think is the case for most of them. But they have such a rare skill set that you should be compensated as such. Like, Christina Aguilera was born with the voice. A lot of these people are like born that way, and they maybe necessarily didn't work as hard to acquire that. But that's okay. The thing is like, you have to have. You're going to be. I love the phrase by Emerson. You are paid exactly what you are worth. So if you want to be paid more, like, you increase the value. Like, for me, it's less about like suck it up and do it, and it's like, okay, like, what's the strategy to close the gap? Like, how does that work? So, and it does suck. Like, there's no way around the fact that you will have to pour through books, courses, experiments, uncomfortable situations to improve the value of yourself. But like, you still have, like, that's the thing that you need. You improve the value, you get compensated accordingly to acquire this money, and now you're able to employ the skill set that you have, but you're still missing that big thing in the front. Like, for me, it's less like, I'm more concerned with that portion of the process, because to me, it's like everybody. I always picture it like this, like it's like a mountain, and up here is like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, and down here is like the worst entrepreneur, the worst business person ever, and everybody is going to be on this spectrum on some level, and it's like, how do you go from here to here? How do you go from here to here? And that's the process that I try to follow. So I don't really disagree with anything. I don't disagree with anything you said whatsoever. My focus is on a different aspect of the process.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I would agree in the sense that you definitely focus on a different aspect in the process. I am constantly, we call it networking, but in reality, you're just constantly looking for help. You're asking other people to help you up there, and it's like, well, I have this. Can you pull me up for that?
Do you like this? Do you like this?
Yeah, if you're on this spectrum, and I'm here, and Sean's over here, but I'll give you this. Can you just throw a rope down? Yeah, okay, maybe do that. Can you do that for me?
Screw you, buddy. I'm so sorry.
No, I can't. How about I give you two of those? So give me two of those. So it's like constantly just trying to figure out who's going to pull you up that way. Because, I mean, if it wasn't for Paul. I'm not going to name last names just in case they don't want to be talked about on the podcast. But if it wasn't for the guy Paul pulling me up into the Green Rock world, and if it wasn't for John helping me further my acquisitions in Hoboken and elsewhere, but it's always been like I can always attach my next endeavor or what I'm doing, like my next step in the process. I did my net worth today. That was a fun little process, and my net worth is up quite considerably in the past 12 months. And I can attach that pretty much to one or two people. Yeah, I did a lot of work. I did some things. But, like, some of these connections that I have that were able to do this don't happen. Some of these other things don't happen without meeting this person. So, like, it's always been for me networking. It's always, that old saying that your net worth is your network. Is, again, theoretically true. There are definitely holes in that saying, but it is a very me and you approach business in a very different way, but me and you approach life in a very different way. We approach video games in a very different way. I mean, look at Fortnite. I mean, you are very analytical. You are very deliberate. And we're taking our time, and this is what we're doing. I, on the other hand, am hearing something, and I'm running at it. And Opie is doing everything. Chaotically.
Anything that pops into his mind, he does immediately.
Yes. Chaos.
Ooh, a balloon.
Yes, exactly. If you guys ever watched Friends, I compare Opie to Joey. If you remember the part where they're all like in their own heads and they're all having conversations about what's going on, and they get to Joey, and Joey's just like boop-a-doop-a-doo, boop-a-doop-a-doo. That's Opie. You never know what the hell he's doing. That's just Opie for you. But it very different, and I believe a lot of times that I am a very big picture person. You're a much more detail oriented person, a smaller picture person, and I'm just going to give it a go and see what happens. I mean, I sat down with some people, and I said, hey, I want to acquire, let's say 30 restaurants for $100 million. Well, do you have $100 million? This is what they asked me. $100 million?
Oh, I wasn't saying that. I just want to do that.
Yeah, literally. I said, no, I don't have $100 million. Like, well, how are you going to get the money? And I was like, oh, I'll figure it out. And they were like, have you ever gotten that kind of money before? I was like, nope. And they said, what do you do? And it was almost like Jerry Seinfeld in Even Steven one. My response to them was, well, I've never been turned down before. So I'm going to keep going until something changes. And we'll figure it out. I have no business trying to acquire 300 Del Tacos. I have no business doing that.
Del Taco.
Right? Well, we're gonna give it a go. If we have it connect to the national team, we're gonna give it a go and see if I can't get a private equity firm to hop on board with me. We'll see what happens. But it's interesting. Me and you do definitely approach things very differently, which does allow us to have some pretty intriguing conversations, not just on this podcast, but in general. But the next thing I want to quickly talk about before I don't know how far along we're in this podcast, but
40.
I have a tremendous amount of meetings in the next 4 hours. But the last thing I want to talk about is it's completely not relevant to what we were just speaking about. But I'm very curious about a guy who let's take, for example, that you didn't just buy a restaurant. And let's say you're not in the restaurant game, which you're not really. More of an investor. What is your thoughts on tipping culture? Now, this is a very hot button topic. Every time I post about it, I'm trying to change my brand to more of a business-minded thing. And every business is, I'm still trying to gain that momentum in the business world because I'm not known as that. I'm known as the guy who struck out Mike Trout. So my views are always down when I post business. But when I post tipping, people are coming for you. And as you know, I just got asked to be on Dr. Phil, which I turned down. But, what are your thoughts surrounding people who believe that we should be paying them a fair wage and they shouldn't be tipping on their bills?
Well, those are just people that don't want to. It's stupid. It's stupid. People are rattled that they are paying extra money. They feel like they have to give more money than is supposed to be given on the bill. Now, I know that there are, like you don't pay X number, the wages are lower because of the tips, and I get all that stuff. And it okay, tips, now everything's more expensive. All right, whatever. First of all, my real thought is, and this really comes back to the who I am and my mindset and what I stand for. You're not stopping that. You ain't stopping that train. It is what it is. If the government tomorrow, they got the Sunshine Preservation Act coming, possibly getting passed, which is there's no more daylight savings time. Right now, there is daylight savings time. And you tell me when to turn the clocks back, and I'll turn them back. I don't care. If you tell me, hey, no more daylight savings time, I'm not going to be like, hey, well, that's bullshit. It is dark out right now. It should be 6 o'clock. I don't care. This is what it is? Okay, cool. I remember when the COVID lockdown happened. They were like, everybody stay inside. And I was like, this sucks, but okay. I am not making any changes here. I am not prepared to go to the lengths to make those changes. So I'm just going to suck it up and be like, this is the deal. This is the world that I live in, and let's rock and roll here. You know what I mean? So what I think you should shut the hell up. And then I think you should tip generously, because it's no longer about, oh my God, I have to pay these $3. What's 20%? Let me take out my calculator and do the 20%. I think you should tip generously because it comes down to what kind of person do you want to be at the end of the day? Do you want to be somebody who is you're getting the minimum, or do you want to be there's I don't know what 20% is. Here's $15. I'm pretty sure that's over. Like that's what I want. Like to me, it's like, what kind of person do you want to be when you put your head on the pillow at night? When you are dead and gone, and people remember you, are they going to remember? Do you want them to remember you like being like so generous with your money or pinching every penny? Like I want people to think that I'm the man, and like I was awesome, and they loved was serving me. You know, they're gonna miss me coming to the restaurant. I remember when we started getting our hair cut at home. I left the guy that I was seeing, the guy that was cutting my hair. I left him, and I was like, I bet that guy's pissed. I was giving him like a $20 tip on a $40 haircut. It's because I was like, man, I like the guy. He does a good job, and that's how I think it should be done. Like that's to me. You ain't changing the circumstance. If you're bitching about tipping, you got bigger problems. We got some real things that we need to clean up in your world. And then once you get over that hump, I think you should tip generously because they're delivering me my food. I think that that's awesome. I think that I respect the grind. I respect that, you probably would prefer to be doing something else, but you're out here, you're trying to make a living, and you've done a nice job here, then I think you should do it. Now, when I go to the friggin' sandwich shop and they flip that little thing around and want me to give them a tip, I think I'm not in on that. I deny that every single time. But at the, like these bonus tips that are coming out now, I'm not in on. But these other, like the normal places, yeah, let's go.
So, I'm certainly with you on the turning around thing. I always feel uncomfortable. I feel like I should give you money.
Yeah, they're just like just like, what's this clown gonna do? And I'm like, I'm about to show you.
You gonna give me some money? So I'm with you. I feel you're the king of not feeling uncomfortable, but I certainly feel uncomfortable in those situations.
It depends on where I am. If it's like Submaster, I go there all the time, and I'm like, jeez, all right. And a lot of times they have like the number, like 10% is like 86 cents. I'm like, all right, I'll give you 86 cents.
It is very uncomfortable there. But and that's funny enough. That's exactly what I was thinking of when you told me about it depends on where I go. I feel uncomfortable every time Submaster doesn't, or when they turn that around for me. But regardless of that, the thing that I don't get when it comes to the tipping culture, and now I know that in Europe, that's the argument. That they don't do it over there, but from my understanding, it's kind of a cultural thing. Now, I don't know if they make less money over there, if rents are not the same as they are here, if the fixed costs of the business are down there considerably, if cost of goods sold instead of it being 15 to 20% is actually 10% over there. I don't know how they manage to do it. I really don't. But what I do know is here in America that if they were to get rid of this, one, there would be less restaurants. Because that's just people aren't going to take if you can't make the money. Restaurants have really good margins, and the reason they have really good margins is they have to have really good margins because one, rents are very high, liquor licenses are expensive depending on where you are in the country, and you need the reward to match the risk of a restaurant, which is a great risk. Banks don't lend to us. We don't get money from banks because they don't think it's a viable business. They think it's a very risky business, and it could be great one year and shitty the next. So it is a very risky and tough business. So the reward has to be great to incentivize people to go and do that. Regardless of that, let's take all that out of the equation. Let's say, on $2 million a year of gross business that we're taking home, a really good restaurant takes home 30%. So $2 million, whatever 30% of that is, $1.2 million. Take home one. That is really incorrect. $2 million. So let's say it's $750,000. It's probably somewhere in that ballpark, right? Because 50% of $2 million is $1 million. So it's probably somewhere in that time frame. But let's say you take home 30%. That's a really, really well-run restaurant. Most places, so the people at home are educated, take home 10 to 15%. 15 being pretty good too. Let's say they average 10, which is the bottom line, but still about average of what a lot of people take home. At $2 million, you take home $200,000. Now let's say you want to increase my costs on labor by 30%. I don't know exactly what it would do, but it's going to be high. So Now, let's say that 200,000 drops 50%. I'm at $100,000, maybe more. Maybe it might be less than that. Probably will be less than that. So now I have so little room for error, and I'm running a business, a very, very tough business, for $100,000 a year. You might say that's great, but you can only probably do one, and you got to make sure it lasts a long time, because $100,000, although, especially in today's day and age, $100,000 isn't what it used to be. And now you have expenses at home. You got taxes getting taken out of that. Your take-home pay. Let's say you're taking home, $60,000. Do you have a family? You can't live. That's gonna be really tough to live on that. Like that is a tough. I don't know why you're laughing.
$60,000. I don't know. You out on a Times Square with a can?
$60,000. If your take home is $60,000, you are struggling to make ends meet with any type of family. Any type of family, depending on where you live. But any type of family. But if you're taking that same restaurant, putting in fucking West Virginia, you're not making $100,000.
Yeah.
That $100,000 is gonna be fucking $60,000, and now you're taking taxes out of that. Now you're down to $40,000. Like you have to understand that you need the risk has to match the reward, and on top of that, your restaurants are just not going to do anything. And let's say we don't do that, and we decide to go the other way. We're going to start charging you more. There have been restaurants that have tried this method all around the country, and a lot of them, if not all of them, have failed because you're not willing to spend fucking $11 on a Bud Light. You want it to be $7. Okay, well, guess what? It's going to be $11 because I need to pay my staff now. Now you just don't understand. Then on top of that, these staff are going 40 hours. Do I have to offer benefits now? Like it is just an absolute nightmare situation, and it is not going to work out. It just, at least not here in the States. I don't see it ever happening. One, first off, the amount of restaurants can be up in arms. You're never gonna get this shit type of stuff passed. And for you people that come to the restaurants and say "fuck off," we're not tipping. You should pay your staff a livable wage. All right, well, don't come to fucking restaurants. Go at home. You suck probably as a person. You probably suck at parties too.
Man, if you got the balls to be like, "Yep, 0," that's not somebody I want to. That's not somebody I want to network with.
Yeah, no, you suck. You suck. You're probably always gonna suck. And I don't want you at my restaurant. Stay home. Like and guess what? The old Patty Westside, who doesn't care about his employees, is probably still going to take care of my staff member that got screwed out of a tip. So, you might think we all don't care, but this is just how the world works.
Yeah, people don't understand that business at the end of the day, you can call it what you want. You call it a restaurant, call it a bakery, call it a florist, call it a gym, whatever you want. It's a cash machine. It's a cash flow machine. And if it's not spitting out of the right amount of cash at the end of the month, then nothing matters. That the business doesn't exist at that point. It is literally a machine. How you choose to do that is irrelevant. And people are they've never taken the time to look into how that actually goes. And if you don't know, it's just like people having an opinion about stuff that they're completely uninformed about. That's one of the reasons I don't offer opinions about politics. And I don't listen to people who do for the most part, because I'm like, dude, you don't know anything. Like, you have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. This guy stands up like, oh, this is Joe Biden. Anybody think that Joe Biden's writing those speeches? Like, that guy is standing up there. They give him a piece of paper and he's going to read it. Like, maybe he's read it a few times before he's up there, but you're telling me he stands and believes everything? They always, in the debates, they're always like when they're like trying to decide who it was, they like show like the contradictions. Like, this guy said this last week or last year, and now he's running on a completely different stand. Like, give me strength, people. Like, if you don't really have an understanding of what's going on here, then you do not have a valid opinion in my world. And that is why, in my world, I take pretty much nobody's opinion on anything unless I think it's valid. Otherwise, I don't even want it in my brain.
No. And we'll end here. I 100% agree with you on politics, and this is what I'll tell you. If you ever talk to me about politics, I can 100%, with 100% certainty, tell you that when you talk to me about politics, you're going to come away thinking I agree with you. And it's not even close. You will never, in a million years, come out of that conversation thinking that Pat is on the other side of the aisle.
You could be so aggressive.
Be so aggressive.
You bring up some good points, sir.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you this. I'll give you 99% positive, because Like if you come, like I'm not gonna be aggressive, but if you like say you're a Nazi, well, I think that's a bit much. I don't think we should go that route. I probably will disagree with you.
Well, look, I can see where you're coming from on these things.
So I'll probably disagree with you. But in the normal course of the world, talking politics, I can almost with 100% certainty guarantee you, and I've had a million of these discussions. Every single person has come away thinking that I agree with them, and that they are 100% correct. And boy, do I like Pat. And there's networking, guys. Agree with people. All right, guys. I appreciate you listening. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Happy Christmas season or holiday season for you folks that celebrate other things. Thanksgiving, funny enough, my favorite holiday of the year. Guys, welcome to November. Welcome to the holiday season. 'Tis the season for Kenny G. See you guys.
Sorry, we're closed.